So hey guys, how's it going on? Welcome back to a brand new episode, and today in this episode we are going to build our first project using HTML, CSS and JavaScript together. So in this video we are going to build a to-do list using HTML, CSS, JavaScript right from scratch. Now let me show you all the features about this to-do list, and then we can start building one. All right. So in this to-do list, first of all, it's a basic one. We are not going to use any cloud. So let me just simply add a task here. So let us say we have something called as task one. And if I click on add task, it gets added. We also store the time at which the task was added. If I zoom in, you could see it. The time at which the task is added, and it was added today. So we are showing today. If it was added like an year ago, then it will say one year ago, something like that it will give. All right. And if I add, let's say task 2, and if I click on add task, now these are two tasks. All right. I can edit any task. Let's say this is task 1. I'm going to say task 1 updated. So I'm just updating it, and now if I click on OK, you will see it is updated. I can even click on complete task, which will mark it as completed. We can unmark it, which will unmark it, and then we can even delete it. Now this is task 2. Now the best part is that these tasks are even stored. So by chance, if you refresh the page, the task is still here. Now let us see. Let me just copy this. I close this tab, I paste it and open it. Now currently this is not a hosted domain. It's saved in my, I'm running through it. I'm running through it from my device itself. It's not hosted. So yeah. So now where is this data stored? Where is this task stored? Now in our browser, there is something called as local storage and session storage. Now let me explain you about that real quick. So coming to local storage, now if we say if in our browser we have two types of storages. One is local storage and the other one is session storage. In session storage, when we close the browser, the data will be erased. Like next time you open the browser, the saved data will not be there. And in local storage, the saved data will be there even if the browser is closed. Until all the data from the computer is been cleared, until then local storage will be safe. Even if you close and reopen the application, it's still safe. All right. Whereas in session storage, when you close the browser, when the session is closed, the storage will be erased. Now that is the main difference between local storage and session storage. Now how to see your local storage and session storage? And this is the elements tab where we see the HTML, the console where we write JavaScript within the browser, and then if you go to application, and then here you will see local storage and session storage. Now, if I open local storage here, you can see that our tasks are saved here. If you see here and here, this is our task. The text is task 2, which is this, and we have stored our date and time just like this. And then we have the state whether it is completed, false or true. If I click on complete, you will see now this completed has changed to true. And if I click on unmark, it will be set to false back again. Now this is how it actually works. Now coming to the next feature, coming to the session storage, what we can do is currently in this project we are not going to use the session storage, but trust me, it is completely same as the local storage. Just the only difference that it will be deleted, all the data will be cleared when we close the browser. Now these are all the features, and one more thing, the design is completely responsive, so you will know how to build responsivity in your web application. So this is on a Pixel. If I show you iPhone SE, you can see it still works fine. If I add something like task 3 and click on add task, the task is added, and you can go to a tab, you can say the Surface Pro 7 or iPad mini, you will see it properly in all the screens. And if we go to the desktop screen, it's still proper. Now if I slowly do this, you can see when I come across 650 pixels, the width of the to-do list is widening. Right now that is about responsive, how we make website responsive. And yeah, let's just get started with the coding, and let's just build this to-do list right from the scratch. So are you ready? And simply let's get going. So right now I'm on my VS Code, and what I'm going to do is create a new folder for the project. Let's just say project 1, and then if I hit enter, the folder is created. Within this, I would like to create three files. One is index.html, the other one is, let's create one more file which will be styles.css, And then we will create one for JavaScript as well, which will be named script.js. Now let's open the index.html and do the doc type declaration. Now the shortcut for doc type declaration is that if I press an exclamatory mark and hit enter, you will see all this brief template right away in your VS Code. Now if I hit save and if I click on go live, you could see the website in the browser. Now right now there is nothing. If I change the title to, let's say, to-do list, and hit save, you will see it's to-do list right now. Now the next thing what we do is let's simply add our style and then style sheet, and then we can add our JavaScript as well. So let us do link CSS, and here we are just simply going to say dot slash styles dot CSS. And now if I hit save, and then within the body I will add a script source, and here we'll say dot slash script.js. It's saved. Now both of them are properly linked. Now let's just start. So before we start with anything, what is the first thing? So if we see the website, you can see here. Now we have a container in which our heading and tasks are all here, right? So what we do is first we create a div with the name container. And if I hit enter, you will see a div has been created with the class container. Now within this div, what we have is an h1 which states that the text, this text. So let's just add that. So I'll just add to-do list and hit save, and you should see it here. Isn't that cool? Now coming to the next part, we have this thing. We have an input which takes the input, the details, or you can say the text of the task, and a button which is add text, which is used to add this task as a list into a list, right? So what we do next is after this h1, we create another div with the class name. We get another div with the class name task form. All right. And now within this div, we have an input and a button. So if we come to create an input task, so you can just simply say this. So we have an input, we have a text, which is ID task, and then we have placeholder where we say enter your task, and we can say something like enter your task, and then we have this button with the ID add task. All right. Now let's just name it add task btn. Now Copilot has generated this code for me, but it's almost the same, so don't you worry. So we have created a task. Let's just say it task input because we want briefer IDs and class names so that we can easily. Now listen, whenever you are coding or developing an application, it is important that you choose your variable names, class names, ID names, all those names systematically, so that when you share your code with someone else, or let's say your teammate in the company you're working for or something like that, he should be able to understand like this name is referring to that particular thing, or that particular thing is being referred by this name, something like that. It should be able to tell. So this is the add task btn. We have this as task input, this is as task form, and now it is pretty much decent. Now what we do next is, now this much part is a task form, right? This thing which we have built right now. Now when we style it, it will look something like this, but for now we only have html, so there is no functionality. All right. So for the next thing we have this. So let's create an unordered list to keep the list of the tasks. All right. So here after this div, what I'm going to do is create an unordered list which is represented by a ul tag, and I will give it an id, let's say task list. Okay. now Now, trust me, this is the entire HTML for the project, because we will be adding tasks from the JavaScript using DOM manipulation, and we will be accessing all these things in the JavaScript itself. And in styles.css, we will simply be styling it. All right. So for now, let's do some basic styling and then we can move on to JavaScript. All right. So coming to styles.css, first of all, let's style the entire body. Now, what does this star operator do? This star operator simply means select each and every element, each and every class, everything within the page. All right. That is what it simply means. So if I say this and hit tab, this is the basic things which we do this almost in every project. So right now you can see margin 0, padding 0, and box as in border box. If I comment this and show you the website, you can see there is some margin here and some padding here by default. By doing this, what we do is remove that margin, padding, and everything. So now you can see it's on the top. So we can adjust as per our own stylings. Now let's select the body tag. Now if we select the body tag, now let's just give it a font family because I want to change the text style. So let's just give it Arial and sans serif. Now why have I given two things here? Why not one? Now see, first it will apply Arial only, but if someone's computer or desktop or mobile phone doesn't have this font, it will move on to sans serif. If sans serif is not there, you can add many fonts here, all right? That's how font family works. Then let's just give it a background color. Uh, let's just give something like hashtag F7, F7, F7. I think this is it. And now this is a shade of white, which you can see the color is slightly changed. If I comment this, you will see it's entirely white, but if I uncomment this now, you can see it's slightly a different shade. All right. In VS Code, you can also use the color picker. If you can just select this somewhere like this. All right. That's how you can select and change it. If I save it now, it's different. So I'll do Control Z and undo it. Now coming to the text color, let's give it something like hashtag 333. Now you'll see it's a little brownish. And then what we need to do is we need everything in the center. So what we do is we make display flex and then justify content to the center and then align items to the center. And then I'm going to give a height to our body, which is going to be 100 view heights. And then let's give it a margin of 0. Right now, if you see, it's totally in the center. Now, guys, these these 4 lines will help you actually center any div. Now, what is happening is this is the entire body. I'm converting this entire thing into a flex. Then I'm saying all the content take it to the center column wise. Now it's in the center here. Now initially, if I remove this height 100 view heights, you will see it's in the center. But now if I comment this and keep the 100 view heights, you will see it's in the top itself. So align items center, adjust it row wise. Row wise, it will bring it to the center. So that is how you are centering this div. All right. Now for the next part, which is our container. So let's select dot container. All right. And then what we do is let's give it a background color of, let's say, hashtag FFF, which is a shade of white itself. Now you can see it's slightly different if you just see behind the background of this text. It's slightly different color, just like this one. And then coming to the next thing, we'll give it a padding of, let's say, 20 pixels. And then we will give it a border radius, we'll give something like slight changes to it, slight curvings over the border. So let's just say border radius is equivalent to 8 pixels. And if I hit save, you can see here we got the padding and some slight this. Now, if you want to see the difference, we can give a box shadow. So now what does this box shadow does? It creates a slight shadow like here. You can darken it if you want, but this is a good styling for now. I'll show you by doing some changes. So we're saying 4 pixels. Now if you can see, this is how this I have given a 10 pixels radius. And now you can see the difference. If I zoom it in, you can see we can slightly see the difference between this white and this white. All right. And for our to-do list, we are going to make it 4 pixels and then we will be making this guy 8 pixels. Now it's proper. Now let's just make it 100% again. And then we are going to give a width to our container. We are going to say its width to be 70 view widths. Okay. Right now, I'm only gonna make it for desktop. Then we will, at the end, we will make it responsive for mobile as well. All right. Now we have given it a width of 70 view width, and I just want everything to be at the center. So I'll just say text align to be at the center. Now you'll see it's at the center. Now let's select this heading and style it a bit. So I'll say H1 and then I will just give it a font size of let's say 1.5 rem, and then let's just give it a margin bottom, a margin from the bottom, let us say to it to be 40 pixels so that we have some gap between this input and this to-do list heading. All right, coming to the next thing, let's select our task form. So I'll say dot task form, which is that input and the button. So if we select it, what we are going to do is we are going to give it a width of 70%. Now, if there is a 100% width of like from here to here, it's 100% width, then we are just going to give it a 70% width. All right, let me show you. Let me give it a background color of red to create the contrast. Now you can see it's taking this much width. If I make this thing 100%, you will see it will cover up this entire space, right? But I just need 70, so let's just keep it that. Okay. So now for the next thing, for this task form, what we need is, okay, let's just remove this width. That is, okay, for the task form, what we need is we need the task form to be in the center of the spacing, right? If I save it now, you'll see it's right here. So what we do is we are going to make it a display as flex. Okay, after making its display flex, we'll say justify content to be space between. To make it space between, what is happening is you can see this is taking up all the space. This is taking up from the right. This is taking from the left. So let me just show you that. So I'll say space. Now there are three options: space around, space between, space evenly. Now to show you this, if I come here, now let us say this is a div. All right. I'll take another one. I'll take another one. All right. So if we have three blocks, this is going to be space between if they are aligned like this. Okay. What is space around? So coming to space around, what we have is we will have something like this. I'll keep it here and I'll keep it here. This is space around, like even distribution from all the things. Now space evenly will also be same as this one itself, like same bit. The only difference between around and evenly is that evenly will make sure about the pixels as well, like exact amount of gap evenly will keep, whereas around will see itself as per the size of the div elements. All right. Now that is just basic styling things. And then coming to the next thing, we have done this is supposed to be space between, and then we'll give it a margin bottoms to differentiate it from the list, the unordered list, which stores the tasks. Let's do 20 pixels. Now you can see this is like here. Now what we get is now we select this input and style it accordingly because right now it looks like this. So what we are going to do is we are going to do hashtag task input. We select that task input as you can see here. We are going to select this one now. Now within this, now we'll do give a padding of let's say 10 pixels, and then let's just give a font size. Now this font size is for the text we enter in here. Now here if I enter, it's slightly bigger, right? So that's what we are going to change right now. Let's give it a font size of 1 rem, and then let's just give it a border. So border of 1 pixels width. I want a solid border, and I'm going to give it a color hashtag DDD. Now there are three types of color representations. One is this hashtag DDD, or you can say hashtag some 6 digits. It's called hex code, and this thing you can see this is called RGBA. Now RGB means the amount of red present in here, you will add this, the amount of green, the amount of blue present in a color. With that you can form any color. And A means alpha, it represents the transparency of the color. All right. And another one is RGB, in which you don't have the transparency, or you can say the alpha thing. All right. Now that's about colors. And now coming to the task input, we gave it a border, and let's see how it looks. Now you can see this is how it looks. This is the border. When we click on it, we see a dark border. It's the default effect of a web page. All right. If I make something like outline to be none, you can see that black thing won't come when I press on it, right? So we don't want that. So I'll just remove it for now. We have this border, and let's just give it a border radius of 4 pixels. Okay. And now you can see this is something like this. Now what I want to do is give it a width of 70%, so that of the entire space it will take the 70% of width. Now it's looking somewhat similar to this. Now let's just style this add task btn. So let's just say add task btn. Now we are here. So now what we do is, let's give it a width of 75%. I mean 25%, because we gave 70% here, 25% here. So rest of the 5% will be the gap between both these guys. All right. So we gave it a width of 25%. Let's give it a padding of, let's say, 10 pixels as usual. And then a background color. The background color will be like hashtag 4CA and then F50, right? And yeah, it is that. And let's just give it a text color of white. So now it's a bit cleaner. And then we'll give it a border of none. I don't want any border. And then let's just give it a small border radius, let's say of 4 pixels. And then let's just make the cursor to be pointer. You see, when I take it on this, it becomes a pointer. If I like comment this, you'll see this is like a normal cursor, but when I make it pointer, you see it becomes a pointer. That is what the cursor property does. And then let's just give the text within it a font weight of, let's say, bolder. Right, save. It's now cool. Okay. Now let's just give it a basic hover effect. Like whenever I take the mouse over it, I want a small change to happen. I'm just simply going to make the background color change. Let us make this color to be 185D1C. If I hit save, whenever I take the cursor over it, you can see it's becoming dark green, right? Now that is how it works. Now we have done this much styling. Now I want to do, like, if I click on add task, I want to be able to add some task into here. All right. So first of all, we will do some JavaScript to add the tasks and stuff, and then we will focus on styling those parts. All right. So coming to JavaScript, what we are going to do is we open our script.js file, and first of all, let's test if JavaScript is properly connected. So I'll just say hello, and if I hit save and open up the console, I should see hello. And yeah, JavaScript is properly connected. I can now remove this. Now our first task is to like get the elements. So let us say get elements. Let us add a comment. So get elements. So what we are going to do is we are going to say a const, then we will select the task input. Task input is equals to, we'll do document dot get element by ID, and the ID is task input, so we'll enter that ID, and this way we have selected the task input. Now we will select the task button, like the add task button. So what we'll do is add task btn, and then we'll just simply do document.get element by id add task btn. And then we want to select our task list as well, the unordered list into which we add our tasks. So I'll just say const task list is equals document.get element by id the task list. All right. Now what we need to do is we need to create a function. Whenever I click on this add task button, I want to call a function. So what will I do for that? So we want to add that button click over this add task btn, right? So what we do is we say add task.btn. To it we want to add an event listener. What is going to be the event listener? It is going to be click, because I want some event to be triggered over a click. All right. So whenever I click, I am going to use an arrow function here now. And after this arrow function, I just want to do something. All right. These are the parameters. Currently, we don't need any parameters, and our function. This is our function body within which I will and like add all my function definition. All right. So now, first of all, let's extract the text which is in the input. Now we have some input here which we need to add as a task. So let's extract that text. All right. So let us say const, and let us say task text is equals to task input dot value. Now and then we'll add another function which will be like trimming. If we have any initial spaces like this and then adding some data and then again spaces, this will trim it to just this. All right. So task input, and we are getting its value, which will give us its value, and then we are just trimming that value. All right. Now we're going to say if task text exists, like if it is not an empty string and there is actually some string, then what we need to do is we need to create a const new task, which will be an JavaScript object, which will have its text as task text, and then we will have something as date, which is equals to new date. Now in JavaScript we have an object called as date, which which is like this. Using this we can get the current year, time, month, date, day, and all those things. So I want to get the current date, so I'll just say new date. If you want details about a specific day or date, you can just add that date string within this parameters within this date object. All right. So, but for now, what we are going to do is from today's date, I want to convert that to ISO string and then do this. Now, this is a format in which this will return me the date. So for now, I want it in this format. And if I hit save, and now there is another thing within the object, I can't use semicolon, right? And then another thing we have completed initially marked as false. Now, if I hit save, this is it. Now, if we have the task text, we create a new task and then we create an array called task into which we will store our tasks which are already here. All right. So for now, let's just say, so actually we need to get, initially we need to get all our tasks from the local storage. But right now we don't have any tasks in our local storage because this is the first time we are building the application. So for now, I'll just simply say tasks is equals to, I'm going to make it let because the task will be keep on being updated, and empty array. All right. And when we create a new task, what we are going to do is we'll just simply do tasks dot push task.push, we push this new task into that. All right. Now after this, we will set task input dot value to be empty because yeah, I have added the task after entering it like this. Let us say task one. When I click on add task, I want this to be empty again. So that is what this is for task input dot value. Okay. Once we do this, we need to display our tasks, right? So we'll call a display tasks function here, but we'll just say, just name it for now, display tasks, and then we will comment it because the function is not defined right now. So this is when the task test exists, but what if it is empty? So I'm going to say else. I want a simply an alert. Like what does alert do? If I hit save and there is currently nothing here, right? If I click on add task, you see an alert. please enter a task, right? That is what an alert is for. You can do alert here. All right. Now let's focus on local storage, the setup of local storage. Okay. Now in local storage, if we talk about local storage, if we go to application, local storage, these are tasks. Now this is from this project, all right, not from this one. So what I will do is first clear the local storage. Local storage. Now I'm going to tell you a function. So local storage dot clear. If we run this function, I mean my bad, spelling mistake. So if I hit enter and if I again go to application local storage, you will see it's now clear. Even if I refresh it, it should be gone. Okay, this is a different domain, so yeah, it's not gone. But for this guy, the local storage is now empty, right? So this is how you can clear. Now local storage has two functions. One is get storage, I mean get item, or you can say get data. The other one is set data. Now two functions, one to get the data from the local storage, the other one to set the data into the local storage. Now initially, as I said, we need to load our tasks from the local storage. How do we load them? So I want to say the tasks we are adding are as objects, right? If we see in this one, you can see the task we are adding are like objects. So what we do is, first of all, we'll say local storage dot get item. We are going to save it as, we are going to give it a key which is tasks. So get item, we are going to simply say tasks. All right. So now we are going to do something like this. We are going to use something called as JSON. Why? Because these are objects and we need these data in a formatted way. So we use JSON dot parse method, and within which we use this. Now this is JSON.parse. Now what does this statement say? It simply says that if local storage gives me something, if there is something in the local storage, it is not null or undefined, then give me that data. But if it is null or undefined, or else it does not exist, give me an empty array in place of tasks. That is what we have done. Now if I hit save, it is fine. Now the next thing what we do is, when we push this new task into the task, we also need to set that task into our local storage. So what we do is local storage dot set item. As I said, we named it as tasks. So here also we'll first select the key which is tasks, and then we will just do JSON dot stringify, and then we'll put the tasks in there. Now parse is to convert from string to formatted way in JavaScript, whereas if you want to convert it into back from formatted way to string so that you can store it, you use the JSON.stringify. Now these both works in the opposite manner of each other. All right. Now coming to the next part, let us see if this thing is working till now. This is our project, right? If I hit refresh, let's say task 1, if I hit add task, you can see here it's properly getting added. Now let's create the function of display tasks through which we can display our functions. All right. So now let's create a function called as display tasks. All right. Let us say display tasks and now define the function. So let us say function display tasks. Yep, this is what we have. All right, now within this function, what we are going to do is, first thing is first, we are going to make the task list. If we see here, this is our task list, right? If I hit save, this is our task list. So we are going to make this task list dot inner HTML is equals to empty. Now everything inside any other elements there are now cleared. We have cleared that element, right? All the children of that particular element are removed now. Now what we will do is we will go through each of the tasks. So we will say tasks dot for each. We'll go for each of the tasks and each of the index. And then what we are going to say, we will get a task item. So let's just say const task item. We get each item, each task item, which is this. So we'll just do document dot create element. Now I want to create a new element, which is a list element, which I will add into that unordered list. All right, now I have created this thing. After this, what we are going to see is if the task is completed, we are going to add a class property, which is going to show us something like this. I mean, not this complete. It will, now this is another class property, right? So what we are saying is if task dot completed is true, if this guy is true, what we are going to say is this task item dot class list dot add completed. All right, but if that's not the case, we are going to do something else. Just give me a second. All right, we put this thing here. Okay, fine. So coming to the next thing, what we do is once we have marked them as completed, now we have added this class list. Now we give this task item all the data it needs. But how do we give it? So we have to work on it. We have to make it look something like this, right? So first let's design a fake task in our HTML and then we can just paste that in and format that task in the JavaScript, all right? So if we go over index.html, let's just comment this for now and then I'll save it. There is some mistake in this file. I'm just I'm just trying to see that. So yeah, okay, we need to close this here. Okay, cool. Nice, fine. So if I go to index.html within this unordered list, we will try to create a fake task item. All right. So let's just create a div dot task, and within this, let's just create another div. Let's say div dot something to represent the text and date. All right. So I'll just say task text and date. Now, what does this mean? This is for this is actually for to store this thing and this thing. All right. Now within this, I will store the text and the date as well, right? So let's just create a span element. Now, what is the span element for? So the span is simply for if you have nothing specific you require for an element, just some basic small text, then you can use the span here. You can also use a p, it will still work, but SEO wise, a span element is more suitable. So I'm using the span. So span dot, I'm just going to say tasks dash text. All right, within this, we will have our task test. For now, I'll add task 101. And then similarly, we will have a span for date as well. So task date. All right. For now, what we are going to do is let's just copy this time and then just paste it here for now. And if I save it, we should have something. Yeah, you can see we have something like this. So we have something like this, right? Now, if we go further, what we need is now we come out. Now, this was still task text and date. Now, the next thing will be the task actions, the buttons for the edit button, the delete button, and the toggle button. So let's just create them. So I'm just going to say div dot, let us say task actions, and if within this we need three buttons. So I'll do button times three. This will create three button elements for us. If I save it, and yeah, we need different classes for them. So yeah, Within the button, first I will give it a class of, let's say, edit btn. All right. And then here we will add the text of edit. And then we'll give this guy a class of, let's say, delete btn, because it is going to be the delete button. Delete, and here we will say delete. And here we will say completed. So here we need two values, right? Mark and unmark. So for now, let's just keep it complete. Then we can, in JavaScript, we can make it proper according to the variable data. All right. Now let's just give it a class as well. So we go to class and then we make it toggle btn. All right. Now if I hit save, we should have all the data we need for a task. Now let's just style it and then we can just simply move on to the JavaScript. All right. So within the styles.css, now we need to style this task, the look of it. So what we are going to first style is that let's select the task container. All right. Each of the task, let's select each of the entirety of the task and with dot task. And what we want is we want them to look something like this. Now in there we use two divs, right? If you see here, one for text and date and one for task dot actions. And if we see here, we want them something to be like this. If we only have two things, I want one to occupy till here, the other one to occupy something like this. So I'm going to use this display flex, right? Again. So in the styles.css, what I'm going to use is display flex. And then I want justify content to be space between, as I said, all right? And then we just need to be aligned as a center. And then let's just give 100% so that it takes all the space there. And now I'm gonna use something as, let's just say, let's give it a margin of 10 pixels first. 10 pixels from left and right both directions and 0 from top and bottom. All right, I told it reverse. So 10 pixels from top and bottom and 0 from left and right. Now if you can see, it is aligned something like this. Now if I reduce the size, you'll see it's happening like this. But what I want is I want to make it something like flex wrap equals to wrap. Now what this will do is, now initially we have like this, but if there is no space, this thing will go below it. All right. Now that is what flex wrap does. Now let's select the text and date. We want to align them like one below the other like this. So what we are going to do is, let's just say dot text and let me just copy this from here, and if we come here, paste it, and then what we do is again make the display as flex. And then what we are going to do is make them column wise because we want them one below the other. So I'll make it a column and then I'll make the text align to the left side, and then I will give it a max width of 60%. Now it should not exceed the width 60%. Now you see it is something like this. All right. Now we have these task actions. So what we are going to do is dot task actions. Now for these guys, what we are going to get is, first let's get it a width of, let's say, 230 pixels, because we don't want them to like 1 and 2 below. So that is why I'm fixing their width, and then simply make them display flex again. And then we are going to give a gap between each of them of, let's say, 5 pixels. This is a fixed gap, and then we are going to give a margin top of 5 pixels so that whenever it comes below this guy, there is some space there. So that's why I've given the margin top. All right. Now coming to the dot, if we say we want to make this thing smaller, right? So what we do is, let's just select that task date, If we see, let's just reduce its font size to 10 pixels and then give it a margin top so that it's a little below. So let's just do 5 pixels and now you can see it's proper. All right. Now, if we select all these ULs, like let's create a copy of it. So we have this as one task, right? Let's copy this and make another task. Before that, I would like to mark this thing. Okay. Now we have two tasks now. You can see something like this. Let's make it task 1 or 2. Hit save. Now this is how we have. Now let's select this entire unordered list in the styles.css and style it. For this, I will give a list style type of none because I don't want any dots to come there as we learned in the HTML session. And then I'm making its padding to 0. I want no padding for it. Alright, cool. Now we will select each of the list items. Okay, now we will select each of the list items. And then what we are going to make them is let's make each one of them as flex. And then the justify content to be space between. And then let's just say align items to be at the center. And then let's just give them a background color of hashtag F9, F9, F9. And then give a padding of 10 pixels and then a margin of let's say 10 pixels space 0, 10 pixels from top and bottom and 0 here. Then let's give it a border radius of let's say 4 pixels and then a box shadow of let's say this 2 pixels and then we give a 5 pixels radius and then we give it an RGBA of this. Now if we see here, currently there is nothing because we haven't added this thing within an li. So if we do li and within this if we add it and for this guy as well li and within this we add this. Now we see some box shadow and a different color as well, right? Now what I want to do is what if it is completed as we did here. If task is completed, we want to add another class which is completed. So let's just define this completed class first. Li dot completed. Now what does this completed mean? So what it means is that a completed class within an li tag only. If we use this completed styling within any div, it won't work. It will only work within li tags. All right. So what we do is we give it a text decoration of line through, which marks a line over the text, li, entire li, all right, and give it a background color of hashtag E0 double F E0, all right. Now it should be good. If we come here and over this li, I add a class, let's say completed. If I hit save, you see it becomes like this, all right. Now what we do is we select these buttons within the li. So we do button and simply let's give it a background color of hashtag 185D1C. If I hit save, you see this dark green color. And let's just make the text color to be white, border to be none. We don't want any borders there. And then the border radius to be let's say 4 pixels and then we give it a padding of let's say 5 pixels from top and bottom, 10 pixels from left and right, and then I want the cursor to be pointer. Now if you see, it looks something like this. Now what I want is I want a hover effect. When I take my cursor over them, I want to change the color a little. What I'll do button and then we will do hover. Alright, now what we do is background color hashtag 4CAF50, which we previously used. Now you could see when I hover over them, it becomes like green. Now there is one small CSS thing which we need to do for the responsiveness. So when you shrink the size, you see the width is still that much. I want it to take this rest of the width as well. So what we can do is we can use a media query in this place. So I want to use a media screen. In place of screen, I want to use something as max width. So whenever the width is 650 pixels, less than 650 pixels, what I want to do is I want to make the container's width, right? All right, container. I want to set its width to 90 view widths. That's it. No, nothing else. So if I go with, like on the top right of this browser, of this web page, you can see width and height, right? When it goes below 650, you can see it takes up 90 view widths. All right, that is how it works. So now the CSS is totally done. So yeah, now let's just work with the rest of the JS. So now we have to do add inner HTML for our tasks, right, which are in the local storage. So what we are going to do is let's uncomment this, add another backtick. Now remember the inner HTML should only be within backticks if there are variables, or you can say dynamic data is being added. If there is, if it's static, like if there is no dynamic data coming from variables, then you can use double quotes. It's probably it's fine. So what I'm going to do is copy all this and comment these li tags which we hard coded so that they don't exist in our web page anymore. Come here, I'll paste it here. All right. If I hit save and then yeah, in place of task 102, what we need is we'll do dollar and within here we'll say we want the tasks text. So task.text, we get its text. And in here what we do is we do this. Now, we want the date to be formatted, so we need to create a function for now. But initially, let's just say task.date for now. All right, this is it, and then it should be good enough. Now, for the toggle button, we have to mark it as complete or unmarked, right? So what we do here is, so what we keep here is if task dot completed, if it is completed, we say unmark, but if it is not completed, we give it an option to say complete. So this is known as ternary operator. It's similar to the if else condition. You just give a condition and then question mark. If it is true, give this. If it is false, give this. That is how it works. If I hit save, now what we need to do, we have this task item, and now simply we will add this task item to the task list dot append child. We append child, we append this task item. Now if I hit save, this is it. If I hit refresh, okay. Now initially we need to call this display task functions whenever the window loads. So now you can see whatever is in the local storage will come here. Now currently the time is in this format, which is not correct. We have to format it in this way. So yeah, let's leave it for that right now. We will modify it later. All right. So yeah, this is it. Now if I add another task, let's say task 2, click on add task and hit refresh, it is there. But when I click on add task, it's not here, right? So what we need to do is once we add our task, we need to call the display tasks. So now if I say task 3 and click on add task, you will see it's here. right? Now that is cool. Now let's work on another function. Let's say this toggle thing, marking as complete. Let's work on this right now. So what we are going to do is let's create another function. Let's say toggle task. So what we are going to do is create a function named toggle task, which takes an index, all right, and toggles that particular task at that index. So what we are going to say tasks, and we have selected the element of within this index in the tasks array, and we are just changing the state. So what does this do? If completed is true, we are going to make it false. If it is false, we are going to make it true. Just the opposite. That is why we are using this not operator here. All right. And then we are going to make the same changes in the local storage as well. So local storage dot set item is what we are going to use. We'll say tasks, and then we will do JSON dot stringify tasks. All right. And then again, the task has been updated. So we call display tasks function. Now this is it. Now, whenever we click on this button, we need to call this function, right? So what we do is we are in this inner HTML. Here we add one more thing. On click, what we want to do is, okay, my bad, spelling mistakes. On click, we want to call a function. So we'll say toggle task, which is a function name within which we will pass in the index. So we have the index from the for each function, right? This guy. So we are just going to pass in that index. Now, if you see it, now you see it's marking itself, right? Now, isn't that cool? I can unmark it as well. Now, yeah, this much part is done. Fine and good. Now, the next task, let's just work on the delete task functionality, okay? So, if we do this, what is the next task? Let's create another function, let's say delete task, which takes in an index. So, what we are going to do is, so we are going to use a function known as slice, which is an array function again. So we'll just say task dot splice. Now what we want is we want to remove the task at the index which is passed in the parameter. All right, we want to remove that task from the array. So from this index we are removing one element. That is the splice is doing. We are just removing one element from this index. All right, then cause we have removed it, we have made some changes. So again, we have to make our changes into the local storage, right? And then again we display our updated tasks and hit save. Now the delete task, we need to similarly call the delete task as well, something like this. It's only, so nothing much changes, so we'll paste it here. This should be good enough. So if I delete it, it's deleted, right? From here as well, from here as well. So that's this much part is cool. Then we have our edit task as well. So let's just copy this. We will create the function below, but for now, let's just add it here and make this edit task. Hit save and it is cool. Now what we do is we create a function for edit task. So let's just say function edit task, which takes the index as well. Now within this, first of all, we need to get a task, right, from the alert. Like when I click on edit here, we get this alert, and here this is where we enter our modified task. So what we do is we are going to say const new task test, which will be the new data, the new text which we will have. So we are using a function prompt, which is taking a prompt, right? So here we'll say enter new task text, or you can say something like, let's say edit your task. That could be more optimal and clear. Edit your task. And after this, we will just give the initial task data. So from the array at that index, we will give its text briefly. All right. Now, if I show you, if I click on edit, this much we have done. If I edit, nothing will happen right now, but we will do for that as well. Okay. Now, if there is something, now we'll say new task text. If new task text is something like if it is not empty, and along with that, this new task text is not equals to our initial text, which is like tasks index dot text. It is not same as that initial thing. If it is different, then what we do is we change it, we update the things. So we say index, this will be equal to our new task text. We change it and then we do the same thing again. We update it in the local storage and then we call the display task functions. All right, if I hit save, we should be able to do it. Task 101, if I make it and press OK, you'll see it is updated. Even if I refresh, we see the updated value. Now, that much part is cool. We have completed all three functionalities. Now we need to work on the formatting of date and time. So guys, coming to this thing, which is our format date and format time, I'll just simply explain it because the logic is pretty simple. So what are we are going to do is, when we are doing inner HTML, the format time here, we'll pass this data, this date into two functions, one in the format date function, the other one into format time, because we are formatting our date into day as well as time, right? So that is what we are going to do. First, let's see about the date. So it takes a date as a parameter, and then we create the current date, and this is the date of the task. So now coming to difference in milliseconds, if you subtract two dates from each other, you will get the difference in milliseconds. To get difference in seconds, what you do is you divide number of milliseconds divided by 1000. And to get in minutes, you divide number of seconds divided by 60. And the same thing goes on for hours, for days, for months, and then for years. All right. We are considering each month to be 30, and for year, we are considering each one to be 365. All right. Or you can say difference in months by 12 as well. It's the same thing. Now we have to finally return the time ago. So what we are saying is, if difference is days is less than 1, which means it was updated today only. So what we are going to say, set time ago to be today. If difference in days is less than 2, we are going to make it the difference is days day ago, because it's a single day, it's 1 day ago, so it will come 1 day ago. All right, I hope you get my point here. But if it is between 2 or 30, then it is going to be these many days ago. But if it is more than 30, it means a month has crossed, right? That's why then we will check if difference in months is less than 1, then we will have a few weeks ago, the difference in days by 7 weeks ago. But if difference in months is greater than 1 and less than 12, then we will do difference in months, we'll floor it, and then if it is greater than 1, we'll say S, otherwise we won't say something. It is same thing as we did for day and days, we just used a ternary operator here instead of two else's, alright? And then we have for year, the same thing, and then at the end, we return the time ago. Now for the format time function, what we are doing is, we take date, and what we do is, we create an options. We want hour in a 2-digit format and minute in a 2-digit format. Now these options can be passed in to our date object like this. Just see this thing. So we created a new date object with the date which we have passed into the function. We converted that to local time string and passed in these options. I want my time as per these options. All right, that is what I'm returning now. Now after we have these two functions, currently there is nothing modified, but when we come here, in here what we do is first it is that let us say we want the format date first, then we need the time, right? So in here what we will do is simply we will call the format date function, within which we will pass in task dot date, and after this we say at, and then again we need to pass the another one, which will be format time, and this one as well we are passing in task.date. All right, if we hit save, and now you can see today at 11:25. So with this, guys, we have completed our very first project using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. I hope you liked the video. Now coming to the main thing, are you now a prodigy in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript? No, actually not. There is a hell lot. You have just stepped into the ocean right now. There is an entire ocean like staying right there. Now, how do you learn more and more? Now, as you know, we are in a world of AI right now. So, as I previously said in the intro episode of this course itself, that AI is taking over and full stack is like not at that boom right now. But if you need to build something, you need to at least know the basic idea of full stack development, web development, all its fundamentals. Because then only if AI makes a mistakes, you will be able to correct them, right? So there is a lot more in JavaScript which you don't need to learn till the very advanced, but you should learn a little more than what I have taught in this video. How will you learn that? By making more projects after this, after you complete this course, make more projects on your own, watch other YouTube videos, make more and more projects, which will eventually just give a 1 and 1.5 month to it, and you will eventually be ready with a proper full stack developer you will become. It's not an instantaneous process, it takes time for everything, and you know that, right? So with that, we have created our very first project using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. I hope you liked the video. If you have any doubts, any kinds of doubts, let them know in the comments. I'll be right there to help you out. And yeah, the source code link will be provided in the description. So if there is something bothering you to like code something, you have some doubts, you can refer to that source code as well. And thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll meet you again with another amazing video just like this one, which will be on a React, in which video we will talk about React. And I can't, it's like I'm not able to wait to make it so that I can share it with you guys. So yeah, let's meet in that video, in that episode. Until then, bye guys.